Welcome to the latest edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and don't forget that the Hudson County Sports Podcast is brought to you every week by the wonderful sponsors, First Stand Sports Center, which is located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken, and the telephone number there is 201-798-4466. And there's also Strulowitz and Gargiulo Twin Boro Physical Therapy located in two places. One is 1 Nardone Place in Jersey City. Telephone number of that office is 201-792-3840. And there's also the other offices, which is located at 1422 Ann Street, Suite 4C in Hoboken. Telephone number there is 201-963-8808. And with me today is a very, very special guest, somebody I've known for a long, long time, and he makes us all very proud of his accomplishments coming from the Greenville section of Jersey City, more importantly, OLM and Country Village. He went from being a multi-sport player as a grammar school player. He then went from Our Lady of Mercy and went to St. Anthony's, where he had a good career there, and was on a member of, in my mind, the best high school basketball team we'll ever see ever again in Hudson County. That 1989 St. Anthony team that featured Bobby Hurley and Terry DeHare and Jerry Walker and the list goes on. Roderick Rhodes was a freshman, and that was just Danny Hurley didn't play, but he was on that team too as well. But it was a great team, that St. Anthony's team. And then from there, my guest went to Jersey State, where he had a good basketball career playing there. But then, more importantly, he decided at a very early age that he wanted to get into coaching. So he got into coaching and went from coaching right away, I guess, at the collegiate level as a grad assistant, and then he had stints at St. John's, and he had a stint at Rutgers, he had a stint at St. John's, and then he had a long stint at the University of Cincinnati. And just 3 years ago, he went to join his longtime friend, who was the head coach at the University of Cincinnati, Mick Cronin. He joined him at, UCLA. And in the pandemic year, UCLA went all the way to the championship game. Unfortunately, they didn't win there, but still, it was a great run that nobody could have expected, because I think they were an 11 seed. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Darren, but my special guest today is my good friend Darren Savino. Darren, how are you today, and how's things going in beautiful California?
Hey Jim, I'm doing great, and it's beautiful here. Of course, it's not too hot. A nice day. I joke all the time. My friends from back east, they call me, and the first thing they say is, "How's the weather?" And I say, well, it's usually 72, but I'll check, and then usually I'll come back with 71 or 73. So that's kind of the way my days go out here. And so it's beautiful. I'm very fortunate, of course, to be here. And I appreciate you, Jim. I mean, I've known you since I'm a little boy, essentially. Right. And, the things that you do for Hudson County, Jersey City in particular, the way you cover sports all these years. I mean, you've, in my opinion, have taken over the mantle to some degree from the Ed Fords of our, a great city and great county, and just someone that cares about kids, cares about sports in our city, in our county, in Hudson County, and just the things that you do. I mean, it's just awesome that you care that much to do even a podcast like this with someone like myself. So. Just appreciate you and all of our years of friendship.
Thank you very much, Darren. That means a lot. Okay. All right, so let's turn back the clock even before I knew you. You were obviously born and raised in Jersey City, and am I correct in the fact that you were living in Country Village growing up?
Yeah, grew up on the same block as Bob and Dan Hurley, Coach Hurley.
First,
obviously.
what road?
So he was on Ferncliff. I was on Exeter. If anybody knows Country Village well, when you go up Exeter Road, a quick left off of Exeter is Ferncliff, and that's where the Hurleys live, right on that corner, right on the first house on Ferncliff. So literally, I could throw a tennis ball, probably hit their house from my house.
All right. That was my paper route growing up when I was sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school. I used to deliver the Daily News, and that was my paper route right there. I used to, so I know Country Village like the back of my hand because I used to be there through rain and snow. And yes, the blizzard of 1978, I went out there and delivered my papers, dedicated as I was to make sure that everybody got the Daily News. So, but all right, so talk a little bit about what it was like for you growing up that close to the college Little League fields, the courts that were there. So you had you were that stone's throw away from OLM. That must have been a great time and place for you to grow up as a kid.
I would agree. So I mean, today's kids are different. I'm learning as I get older. We as young back then, everything was outside. We just you go outside, go to the park. There's baseball there. You could, play stickball. You play basketball in the courts, and that's kind of where I grew up and how I loved growing to love sports. And I probably liked sports too much as a young person because I didn't do as well in school as I probably should have. But get me any kind of ball, tennis ball, basketball, football, and we did it. And it was a great childhood. I learned so much from so many great people, and I didn't necessarily have a passion for basketball. I think I was more of a baseball player. I love basketball, but I think I was more into baseball and football and kind of all three of those sports. And then as time went on, I grew closer to basketball. We can get into that more later, but. Playing all three sports as a young kid and loving all three sports, football, baseball, and basketball. And I just knew I wanted to do something in sports.
Did you play organized football?
No, I just would tackle people in the streets there. Play touch football, and then we would play at the Little League, college Little League field. We would always have, tackle football games with all our friends. Right. So one regret I think I probably had in high school, St. Anthony's didn't have football.
No.
So Marist was something I was considering because I wanted to play football. And but I gravitated towards baseball and basketball, and I just never did it. But I think I have more of a football mentality than I do basketball and baseball. But yeah, so that's kind of where we grew up. Obviously, I grew up on the same block we talked about with Bobby and Danny Hurley, and so just being around them and their passion for both Bobby and Danny were good in all sports. I mean, they weren't just good in basketball. Danny was a really good baseball player, and sure. Bobby probably could have done any sport if he wanted to. So just being in that environment around those kind of athletes, people that love sports, I think that's why I gravitated towards this life that I've lived the last 30 years.
Okay, and it wasn't just basketball in that area. You guys played all three sports all year long. You played football during football season, then you went to play basketball, but maybe play basketball all throughout the whole year, and then baseball, which you, at that point in your life, Darren, when you were 11, 12, 13 years old, that baseball was your best sport, and you got to play college Little League All-Stars, and then you went to Greenville Babe Ruth, so probably you had more of a chance to play organized baseball than you did anything else back then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely a better baseball player. I was a good pitcher, and whatever. I was 12, 13 years old. You'd think you're going to play in the major leagues, of course, and I was fortunate to, like in Jersey City, places like that, you have to have people that care about the young people in the community and give them opportunities to play and experience different sports. And I was lucky to be in a city, in an area where there was so many opportunities for us to play different sports and to figure out what we wanted to do in life and what we liked. And so like I had Father Lawrence Miller, who was one of the great, people in my life as a young person he was a baseball guy. He pushed baseball on me. He gave us opportunities to do things. Ed Ford, of course, when I was like 12, 13 years old, he was, everybody knows the Fa and what he's done for Hudson County and Jersey City, baseball in particular, and kind of spotted me as somebody that would be a good player and kind of took me amongst every other athlete in the city that could be a good athlete and took me under his wing and kind of pushed me into travel baseball and just so fortunate to have those kind of people in my life and baseball was something that I loved and was good at. But it gets to a point where my arm started to hurt. I couldn't throw anymore, couldn't pitch. And so, I always played basketball and loved basketball. So then eventually I gravitated towards basketball. But, having guys like Ed Ford and Father Miller in my life as a young person, that really kind of molded, what I wanted to do, and also kind of emulated what they did for me now as an adult, trying to help young people as a coach.
Okay.
And so I think I didn't even think about it back then, but now as an adult, what they did for me, I said, I wanted to kind of do that for others and for other young people. So that's kind of why I got into coaching.
Okay. All right. So talk a little bit about your experience with baseball. And did you get a chance to play on those, quote, Stars of Tomorrow teams? Were you just on the cusp then when they were starting that program? Were you?
Yeah, so yeah, good question. So when it started, I'm assuming, I don't know exactly the history yet. I was one of the guys that I played with. We were the first teams. So Harvey Zucker was kind of, if I'm not mistaken, he coached the team. He had a big part of putting that all together. Correct.
He did it all. He funded a lot of that too. So Harvey did a great job in getting that Stars of Tomorrow program rolling, and that was him doing it out of his own pocket. He did. He was amazing how he was able to.
Great man.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
So I was a part of those teams, and we did all the traveling, and I think one time we went to California, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Just all over the place. So and again, that's Ed Ford. Ed Ford was the Fa was the one that kind of recommended that I'd be on the team, and I'm so fortunate again that to have that relationship with him, that I was able to be a part of those teams and be able to travel as a young person.
And that gave you a little taste of what it was like to play organized sports at a higher level than just playing in Jersey City, correct?
Yeah, I think so, Jim. You get, you're on your little community when you grow up, right? And so you have the same athletes you compete against. But then you realize there's more to the world than just Jersey City, Country Village. There's different states and there's different levels and there's great athletes throughout the whole country. And so getting the experience and playing against kids from different states and I think that really opened up my eyes to the world is a lot bigger than our own little community that we lived in. And so I thought that was a great experience and a great challenge to be able to play against kids, from different states and obviously high-level talent.
All right. And remind me of some of the people that you played with on that team. Were you on the same team with Kenny Coleman? And I'm trying to think who else might have been on those. Kenny Coleman sticks out in my mind. Maybe Johnny Furch, or was he?
No, so my memory's not great. Krista Crease.
Okay.
Yeah, Krista Crease. I'd say Vinny Bello, and Rob Gleason. Some of the names. I'm trying to think of other names. I'm not good with that stuff. I kind of so long ago.
Those are two very good names to start out. And Krista Crease has also been a guest on the podcast, so we remember those days of Chris being a standout baseball player, but so are you. There's no question. And you steered your brother Justin in the same direction because he also became a very, very good baseball player. Maybe even better than you, although you might disagree. But he was
totally disagree. Yeah, totally disagree. But that's okay. That's okay. He was pretty good, but yeah, he's not as good as me. But that's all right.
But then again,
so my claim to fame with
big
baseball.
Always saying, right? Big brother's always.
Yeah, exactly. So my claim to fame in baseball is like everyone was good in Little League. I mean, it is what it is. So, but I got a chance in high school to play with Willie Banks as a freshman. We won the state championship, and so I got a chance. I think it was for 2 years. Again, my memory's bad.
Right.
Willie Banks was one of the great athletes that I've ever seen because he could do everything.
To watch back then. He was just absolutely unbelievable to watch. So and about as good as it got. So, but weren't Willie and you the same age?
No, I want to say Willie's at least 2 years older than me, maybe 3, but I think it was 2.
Okay.
Willie was not only a stud athlete in baseball, obviously. I think he was the 3rd pick in the draft in maybe 87, so that makes him 2 years older than me. But he could play basketball. Yep. He could have done any sport. But as great of an athlete as he was with me, he kind of took me, and I remember this, and he probably don't, but he took me under his wing and treated me like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. He just kind of gave me, like I was a baby probably when I was a freshman in high school, complaining, and he just basically, he was like a mentor to me, even though it was only a couple of years apart, and I respected him so much. So he kind of taught me a lot about how to act and facial expressions and stuff that sticks out in my head, right, as a young person. So Willie was a stud athlete, stud person.
St. Anthony's went all the way to the state finals that year with Willie. I'm trying to think what that was, 87.
Sounds about right. Yeah, sounds about right.
87 season, they went all the way to the state finals, and as a matter of fact, the semifinal game was the day he got drafted. So he went right from the state semifinal game where CBS News was filming, and he hit a home run at Pershing Field all the way across Central Avenue, and it bounced up and hit the pizzeria across the street. Right? You remember that? No.
I know he hit a lot of home runs. You got a better memory than me, Jim. I just know the guy threw over 90 miles an hour.
He hit a bomb, and then incredibly, he didn't run. So he stood there, and there he was. He admired it after he hit it. And I just remember Hogan screaming at the top of his lungs, "Run!" Because you don't know whether or not it's gone, but Willie was just, he was hot dogging it. There's no question. Little bit of showboat, and he hit that was in the semifinals, and then you went all the way down to Princeton, and you played in the state finals in Princeton, and then unfortunately you didn't win there. But that those things happen. But Willie is one of the top 3 baseball players I have ever seen play. He was just absolutely phenomenal. So, and the day he got drafted, June 2nd, 1987, I'll never forget it. I spent that whole day with Willie and the Rodriguezes waiting for that phone call to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he just had a great high school career, and then went on all the way to playing the major leagues. So you can't beat that.
That's right.
So, all right, talk a little bit about that 1989 St. Anthony's basketball team that you were on. And although you didn't play a lot, because there were a lot of players on that team that were unfortunately better than you, but what was that like to be part of that team that didn't come close to losing that year? You rolled through the county championship, and you rolled through the state championship like there was, like a hot knife through butter. But again, you had Bobby Hurley and Terry DeHare and Jerry Walker and Rod Rhodes on that team. That was just about never mind that that was the best high school basketball team I'd ever seen. And what was it like for you to be part of that team, to get treated like you were rock stars? Like you would go to every single game, and no matter where you played, those games would sell out because people wanted to come and see St. Anthony's. It was almost like like you were your own, like it was Beatlemania, for God's sakes. And what was that like to be part of that team?
Well, I mean, during the time, you're young and you're just excited to play and be a part of something special. So it's a different era, of course. You didn't have social media and some of the things that the teams get today and the athletes get today, the exposure, it's different. But we had a great team, and everywhere we went, everyone was trying to beat us. You had to play your A game every single night, and great crowds, just great environments, and not being at the elite college level like a Duke or Carolina back then. At St. Anthony's that year, we kind of were treated, like you said, like rock stars. But what it taught me, and what hopefully the rest of the guys on the team, is that you had to come to play every day. Every game, no matter who you were playing, they were trying to play their best game. It was their World Series, their Super Bowl. So you had to learn that you couldn't take any nights off. And obviously we had one of the great coaches in the history of basketball, not only high school basketball, and Bob Hurley. So he definitely did not let us forget that we had to play the best that we could play, because everyone was trying to take us out. So those are the kind of things, and again, I'm talking like a coach, those are the things that kind of stick out in my brain the most, that I could take with me from those days. Is you have a target on your back, and you winning is not guaranteed. So you have to play at an elite level because the other team is, again, ready to take your head off. So those are the things that stand out the most about playing on that team.
All right, and how much fun was it?
I loved it. I mean, those guys were like my brothers. And Bobby, obviously, we grew up together. So I was fortunate to sit there and see him, literally sit there, Jim, and see him, literally see him, play at such a level. The guy was in high school, 6 foot, 165, 70 pounds. And
you're being kind. But 170 pounds? Yeah.
But fearless.
Quarter.
Yeah, but fearless, and the pressure of the whole world is on his shoulders, and he handled it. I don't know if I could handle all the pressure that he had on him, but he did. He handled it. And, Bobby is very inspirational, the way he kind of dealt with all that stuff. So,
yep.
It was fun. I mean, going and winning every game, playing a national schedule and playing against the elite teams in the country. I mean, obviously it's a great experience, and it's something I always remember.
I, as somebody who went to see, I don't know, I guess of the 33 games you played that year, I probably saw 22 maybe of them. The only ones I didn't get to see was when you were far away. But if you were local, anywhere near within driving distance, I was there. It was just it was absolutely something to behold. And I was kept saying to everybody at that time, we're never going to see anything like this ever again. And no, we haven't. Coach Hurley does not like to compare teams, but I'll do the comparison for him. That was the best high school basketball team I'd ever seen. It was clearly. The funny story I could tell, I mean, because now he's gone, but do you remember who the closest game was that you played that year? The only game that was decided by less than double digits. Do you remember who that was?
Was it the prep school from Pennsylvania that we played in Dickinson High School, maybe?
Nope. The closest game you played was North Bergen, and you only beat them by 8 points. And after the game was over, Randy Shave, who was the coach at North Bergen at the time, and he had green with envy. There's no question. I don't know whether or not he liked Coach Hurley, but he certainly didn't like St. Anthony's. And and he said to me after the game was over, I'd quote, and I mean I'm quoting somebody who's no longer with us, but quote, I don't think they're that good. I think somebody's going to beat them. That's what he said. To which that I wrote my column the next day in the Dispatch, said, well, Coach Shave, I said, there's only 3 teams in Hudson County that could give St. Anthony's a run for their money. And those 3 teams are Stevens, Jersey City State, and St. Peter's College. And I said, and they could probably beat Stevens. They'd beat Jersey City after a while, but I said maybe St. Peter's might be able to give them a tough time. But other than that, they ain't no high school team that's going to beat them because they were that good. So, and I got into a little bit of trouble because I was comparing high school kids to college players, but I was dead serious. I didn't think there was a college, like if you played St. Peter's College, you would have probably beat them. There's no question. With the talent.
We had a great team, but I think more importantly, we had a great coach, and so there are a lot of teams out there that might have great talent and et cetera, but we did have. Obviously, I think we had 3 NBA guys on our potential NBA guys on our high school team that became NBA players.
4, but who's counting?
But the coaching was the reason why we were good.
Yeah.
In my opinion, so
no question.
Well, I'm fortunate to I told you some things before what I took away from that time in my life, but I think the most important thing is my time with Coach Hurley and listening to him, picking his brain, all the values about the game and how to compete. Everything that I've learned from him is kind of made me who I am as a coach today. So that's the best thing that probably came out of my time at St. Anthony's is that lesson there.
All right. Well, we'll be back more with Darren Savino after this message from Stan Sports Center. Stan Sports Center is your local full-service sporting goods vendor and authorized team dealer. They offer quality products and dozens of brands to outfit your team top to bottom. Stan's has proudly been supporting the local community since 1946 and is your one-stop shop for uniforms, equipment, online team stores, and so much more. Locations in Hoboken and Saddlebrook, and they just now opened up a warehouse in Boonton, so they're moving up the ladder, and servicing the entire tri-state area. Visit them on the web at Stans Plural, Sports Plural, CTR.com. That's Stans Plural, Sports Plural, CTR.com. And check them out on social media for their latest creations. That's Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number there, 201-798-4466. And if you go down to Stan's and you say hello to my friends Lou and to Danny and to Todd, and mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast with Darren Savino, you'll get a 10% discount on everything, all retail items that are in the store. 10% discount on all retail items, no matter how much you buy, you'll get 10% off if you just mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast. And maybe they might throw in an extra pair of shoelaces if you mention Darren Savino. That's Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken, and the telephone number there again, 201-798-4466. And please make sure to mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast. All right, we're back now with my special guest, Darren Savino, the assistant coach at UCLA, men's basketball coach at UCLA. And Darren, now talk a little bit about after you graduated from St. Anthony's, was there any thought at all about where else you might be going to school, or did you want to stay close to home?
No, I went to school in Florida for a year at NAIA school and played basketball down there, so it was kind of like a half scholarship, so it wasn't a full scholarship. My dad had got... Say it again, I'm sorry.
What was the name of the school?
Weber College.
Oh, Weber College, how about that?
Yep. And so my dad had got sick.
He must have had a connection with Weber College because he was sending my best friend, John Rochford, to Weber College to go play there too. And unfortunately, Roch's parents didn't allow him to go. But so isn't that funny that you also part of that Weber College bandwagon, so to speak. So Weber College was interested in you. Oh, and you went there.
I went there for a year, and then my dad got sick. I came back home, and went to Jersey City State, finished at Jersey City State, and then as I'm going into my last year, I decided not to play because I wanted to get into coaching. And Mike Leonardo
knew then you wanted to
at
get into coaching.
Marist High School talked me into being his JV coach.
Who did?
And Mike Leonardo, Marist High School.
Okay, at Marist.
Yeah.
Okay.
He talked me into being his JV coach, and I kind of got the.
And you were still in college at that time?
Yeah. I didn't play my senior year. I just got to a point where I had, it's over.
Yeah.
And so Mike asked me to do it, but before that, Mr. Santolano asked me to coach the Little League team down at in Country Village. So
okay.
I coached baseball, and I loved it. I love coaching. I was good at it. He gave me confidence in coaching. Like, he gave me a lot of compliments. He gave me feedback, and I kind of just by doing that, I just kind of got the bug of wanting to be a coach. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, really, because I probably wouldn't have stayed in the coaching.
Did you coach the All-Star team at College Little League, or just the
I did both.
Wow.
I did both. I coached one of the teams during the regular season, and then they asked me, College Little League asked me to do the All-Star team.
Wow.
And so just, doing that, it lit a fire under me, and that's when Mike Leonardo asked me to coach with him at Marist, coach basketball, and then I went there, and the rest was history. But coaching baseball at College Little League and doing the All-Stars, that to me was that's what really got me into wanting to be a coach.
Okay. And when did coaching basketball get into the mix?
Well, I love basketball, of course, and I was playing basketball, and when Mike reached out to me and we connected, so Leonardo was our gym teacher at St. Anthony's. He was our PE teacher for a couple of years. So I knew Mike. He was Coach Hurley's assistant when I was in grammar school, so my relationship with the Hurleys, going to games or whatever. So I kind of knew him even before high school.
Okay.
So it's all intertwined. What's the game, the Kevin Bacon game? All the degrees goes back to Kevin Bacon. It all goes back to Bob Hurley Sr. some way.
Oh, 6 degrees of Bob Hurley. I thought it was going to be 6 degrees of Darren Savino.
No. So Mike asked me to do that, and I knew Mike was doing a great job there, had a great program, and I just got excited. I wanted to do it, and I was like, all right, let me do this. I want to coach, and I wasn't going to play in the NBA, of course. So let's start doing this, and so that was it. And my first year, we had a pretty good team too. Donnell Williams might have been a senior. Pablo Carrasco, you remember that Marist High School team? I think.
1992, they won the. Incredibly, they beat St. Anthony. So I don't know how you were able to look at the Hurleys after that game, because they beat.
Yeah, I'm sure they weren't happy.
They beat St. Anthony's in Yanatelli Center in the Parochial B North championship game, and a game that was not close. It was St. Anthony's. Marist beat them badly, right? And I will never forget. What Leonardo did in that game was a brilliant coaching move is that he played a triangle and two, and he did not defend two players, and every time they got the ball, the idea was stay away from them and let them shoot. And I'm not going to mention those two players' names because that'll be an embarrassment to them, but sure enough, that worked because they ended up, I think, Marist won by 17, 19, something like that. It was one of the worst losses that Coach Hurley ever suffered in his career.
Well, again, you got a great memory, Jim, especially when it comes to beating Coach Hurley at St. Anthony's. I want to forget about that. I had nothing to do with that. I was the JV coach, so I was on the bench for the varsity, but I had nothing to do with that victory. That's all. We can blame Mike Leonardo for doing that, not me.
Blame Leonardo. It's easy to blame him. But here's the other thing too.
Exactly.
That Marist team had some pretty good talented players. They had Johnny Giraldo, and they had Donnell Williams, and they had Jamal Marshall, and they had Warren Anderson, and boy, did they have it. They had a lot of talent. A lot of
good players. And that was, now you can see the reason why when someone, said, hey, come join us, you can learn how to coach, we got a good program. So I just, again, I didn't know what I was doing then, but I just felt like it was a good opportunity. So that to be around those kind of players, and then I was there 2 years, and then you have college coaches coming in the gym all the time, and that's kind of where I was thinking I wanted to take this to take it to the college level, and just being at Marist for Mike.
Darren, you knew at that point, Darren, you wanted to make it a career?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I was all in. I wasn't quite sure if it was going to stay in high school or college, but I knew I wanted to coach and just lean in that direction. And so, choosing to go there and being with Mike and helping him at Marist, that definitely catapulted me to the college level.
Okay, and how long did you stay at Marist for?
It was 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the JV coach and then Mike's assistant on the varsity. So long days back then, Jim. I used to work at Our Lady of Mercy as the PE teacher / athletic director, and drive my beat up Nova to Marist and have my practice, and then stay for the varsity practice, and then take kids home. So by the time I got home, it was like 9 o'clock at night. And I think back then Marist might have been paying me peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and free Gatorade. So I had nothing, nothing. My bumper was like scratching the ground, and I had like 8 guys in my car driving home after practice.
That car was a beater like nobody else's business, boy. That was it was a miracle that car was still on the road.
Yeah. So
that car was struggling, but it got to you where you had to be. So,
that's right.
All right.
That's right.
All right. So how did you get into the college ranks, and how did that all transpire?
Yeah. So again, being at Marist, having all these good players in the gym, college coaches during the season or in the off season, in the summer would come and watch our guys work out. So you just naturally connect with people, and they ask you questions, you talk to them, and Fran Fraschilla at the time was the head coach at Manhattan College.
Right.
And he had Big Jamal Marshall, who played for Mike at Marist, on his team. And so he made it a point to come to Marist to recruit. And so by doing that and coming a lot, we struck up a friendship. And, so that was one of the first guys I met and had a great relationship with. But before that happened, I was still working camps. I was running around the summertime back then it was Eastern Invitational, and just on that summer circuit, so to speak, back then. And Greg Herenda was at Seton Hall.
Did I mention that name? Come on, please.
Greg Herenda, yeah.
Oh,
Greg Herenda.
He's got to get
here. If I don't mention Greg's name, Jim, he'll maybe put a hit out on me because.
Well, he don't have that kind of connections. He's you might
he takes a lot of credit.
He has like Italian connections in Hoboken, but he's he doesn't have that kind of connection. And now he's in North Carolina, so we'll never hear from him ever again. So.
He takes a lot of credit for my coaching career, so I got to mention, and he did. He was the one that he was smart enough to see, like, if we can hire Darren, maybe we can get some of these Marist kids or St. Anthony's kids. And so Roger Breslin at the time was back then it was the administrative assistant position, and he left. He played at Holy Cross.
Right.
He left in the middle of the summer, I think. At the end of the summer, before the year started, he left Seton Hall in that position to go to Holy Cross as a full-time coach and assistant coach. And so the position was open, and Greg called me, and I did that for a year and went to Seton Hall. Left left Marist, left Lady Mercy, and it was an administrator, called the administrative assistant. Now it's like the director of operations title. I did everything from ordering the food to ordering the gear, all the jobs that nobody wants to do. I kind of did that my first year at Seton Hall. But that's how I got into college.
And you certainly couldn't put two words with, even though the head coach at Seton Hall at that time was George Blaney, a fellow Jersey City guy like you, and Horrenda from North Bergen. Boy, oh boy, we were mentioning his name again. But I hope you realize that I'm joking, and the listeners are joking, and the fact that Greg and I were inseparable. And he might not agree to it, but we were inseparable in high school, and we both went to St. Peter's Prep together, graduates of the class of 1979. So Greg and I have been friends for a long, long time. So that's why I can joke around with it. But now Greg is now an assistant coach at Elon College in North Carolina. He just started there after his stint at FDU ended abruptly, so to speak, as they say. But and unfairly, no question. I mean, I think the reason why, and I'll say it, and I don't care if I get the reason why he's no longer the head coach at Fairleigh Dickinson is because the Fairleigh Dickinson athletic director, I won't mention his name because he's a slob, but he did not like Greg, and I think he was jealous of Greg's popularity and the fact that, I mean, Greg, as the head basketball coach, delivered the commencement speech just 3 years ago. He delivered the commencement speech at the graduation at Fairleigh Dickinson, and I think I'm going to say 2019. Imagine that, and then get rid of him. So it just made no sense to me whatsoever. And now Greg is he's happy that he's at Elon, and hopefully he'll do well there and move back and somehow get another chance to be a head coach down the road. So, but I thought he was going to be at FDU forever and ever and ever. So, but what do we know? All right, so Horrenda, it helped you get involved with college basketball, and you went to Seton Hall, and you stayed at Seton Hall for what? Only 1 year, because they got bounced, right?
Yeah, Coach Blaney was there for maybe another year or two after I left. I was there 1 year, and then that's when
2 years.
1 year. Danny Hurley was actually a fifth-year senior on that team.
Oh, really? Okay.
The year I was there, it was pretty neat to get my chops busted by Danny every day, which he definitely did. If you know Danny, he definitely busted my chops every day.
He's one of the all-time greatest when it comes to busting chops. So,
Adrian Griffin was on that team too. Adrian's in the NBA now as an assistant coach, and his sons obviously are great players as well. So Adrian and Danny were both seniors that year.
Yeah. I mean, you had a very good team that year too, right?
I think we were like barely 500.
Oh, really? Okay.
It didn't result into wins, but it was a great experience for me, though.
That's not the team that went to Syracuse and won back-to-back games to get into the Sweet 16. So that's not the team you would know. So, okay.
Nope.
All right. So now you leave Seton Hall, and did you go to Manhattan?
No. So what happened? And hopefully these stories aren't boring to people, but I'll tell them anyway.
It's fascinating, Darren. It's absolutely fascinating.
Fran Fischella used to come, like I said, I kind of said him, probably should have mentioned Greg first and Seton Hall, but being at Marist, Fran used to tell me when I got to know him by him coming to the gym all the time, someday I'm going to hire you, right? So we would laugh about that and joke about it.
Fischella said that to you?
Yeah, when I was at Marist, he used to say that to me.
Wow, okay.
And I didn't know what I was doing back then, so I don't know if he was serious, joking. I had no idea. I took it as he was serious, so I just went with it. And so I'm at Seton. It's in the summertime, early summer. I'm driving down to Jersey Shore. Again, this is before the internet, cell phones, and I got WFAN on. He prior to this, he had an open. He gets the St. John's job. He goes from Manhattan to St. John's.
Right.
I try to get the job. I don't know what I'm doing. There's no cell phones. I get his home phone number. I call. I talk to his wife. She's very nice to me. Meg, Fran, I'll call you back. He calls me back. Coach, I'm calling you up because you told me you were going to hire me. Remember, Maris, you said, when I get a big job, I'm going to hire you, so I'm calling you. You said you're going to hire me. So we laughed about that. It was me and Tony Barbie for the job.
Wow.
It came down to me and Tony Barbie. So, and he definitely, he liked me, but I also know that he also wasn't going to hire me because I was such a good-looking guy, and fun guy to be around, because I could potentially bring, talent with me, right?
Right.
And so, but anyway, he hired Tony Barbie instead of me. He said, Dan, Tony was 1, you were 1A. It was neck and neck. Fran at the time was very close to John Calipari, who was the coach at UMass.
Right.
Tony was a great player, all that stuff. So anyway, so he hires Tony Barbie. So great, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm going back to Seton Hall. Good luck, at St. John's, pulling for you. So we ended very nice and had a great, time talking about the job. I'm driving down the Jersey Shore. It's summer. I got WFA on, the fan on, and they start talking about John Calipari leaving UMass to go to become the coach at New Jersey Nets. So, I don't know. For some reason, I just said, let me call Fran back. For some reason, let me call Fran. And he's like, thank God you called me. I was going to call you. There might be a change in plans here with the job. I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, well, John Calipari is going to the Nets. Bruiser Flint's going to be the coach at UMass. They want to bring Tony Barbie back to UMass. This was after a couple of weeks when Tony accepted the job. So Tony Barbie goes back to UMass. Bruiser Flint gets the job, takes Tony Barbie. Now Fran's got an open spot at St. John's. I told you were 1A. Tony left. Be in the office next Monday, 9 o'clock. And so that's how I got to St. John's. So Tony Barbie had the job. I didn't have the job, but then he left and he opened up a spot. So I went to St. John's with Fran at the time for 2 years.
Okay. And that was a tumultuous 2 years, though, wasn't it? It wasn't the easiest time to be coaching at St. John's, was it?
I didn't really look at it that way. Again, I was young. I just was doing my job as hard as I could do it. Fran was, back then, very demanding, but he taught me everything.
Okay.
So that's all I was focused on. When we went to the tournament, we were there 2 years. Our first year, we were just okay, kind of building. We took over a team that the coach got fired, of course, so, they weren't very good.
Right.
And then the following year, we went to the tournament. So he got fired in that second year after going to the NCAA tournament. Right. But again, my focus was on what I had to do and I didn't know anything. I was learning everything. And Fran he's a mentor of mine. He taught me how to be organized. He taught me how to scout. He taught me how to recruit. He taught me everything.
Okay.
So I owe everything to him when it comes to, being a college basketball coach. And he was tough on me, of course. You watch Fran on the sidelines. If people remember when he was coaching, he was very fiery and tough, and he kind of was like that with me when I was young. But it made me who I am today, I think, by spending that time with him. So I'm grateful.
Okay. And then, so then now all of a sudden, now Fraschilla is fired by St. John's, and now you're without a job again.
Without a job. So now the search begins. And again, I bring this up. No internet, no cell phone. You have to be present at, I can't even remember how we used to do it, right? You got to be present at events. You got to get on the house phone and call people and difficult. But I was fortunate to run and communicate with Joe Dooley. Actually, Ron Rutledge at St. John's helped me out with that.
Okay.
And got Joe Dooley to hire me at East Carolina. So that's where I went after St. John's.
Okay. All right. And who was the head coach at East Carolina at that point?
Joe Dooley was.
Joe Dooley was. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
he was the youngest head coach in the country. He might have been 28 or 29 at the time.
All right. So what was that like for you to be, like a fish out of water? That's the furthest you had been away from home. Every place else you were coached at, you were, within your same area code or at least, within driving distance. What was that like for you to be in North Carolina coaching?
It was difficult. It was difficult.
Okay.
A fish out of the water was an understatement. Felt like Joe Pesci.
In my cousin Vinny.
My cousin Vinny, correct. That's the way I felt like. No, I didn't wear leather jackets back then, but I felt like Joe Pesci and my cousin Vinny. Okay. My accent really stood out, and but it was really the first time that I was, living in that part of the country. So for me, it was definitely a culture shock. But I, again, didn't care. All I cared about was coaching and doing what I was doing, and I just did it. I wasn't making any money. Literally had to eat at the cafeteria. I was eating ramen noodles at night.
Oh God.
But that's the struggle that most coaches go through. The grind of trying to, get up the ladder. I was on top of the ladder at St. John's back then. We went to the tournament. We had Felipe Lopez. We had Ron Artest was a freshman.
Wow.
We had a really good team. And I go from coaching, sitting there at the Garden, and then now I'm at East Carolina. So it was kind of a crazy time. And but again, just focus on doing what I'm supposed to be doing, learning every day, trying to get better. I was still a young coach.
Culture shock, though. It had to be culture shock.
Joe Pesci, my cousin Vinny. That's what I was.
All right, so we're going to continue on with Darren's coaching career in just a minute after this commercial word from Strulowitz and Gargiulo. For over 40 years, Strulowitz and Gargiulo Twin Boro Physical Therapy has been caring for Hudson County and Hudson County athletes. With modern state-of-the-art offices in Jersey City, Bayonne, and Hoboken, you can count on Carl Gargiulo and his highly trained, experienced staff of physical and occupational therapists to help you recover from an injury, get post-operative care, or reduce your pain and help you get back doing the things you love to do. From back pain to balance difficulties, sports injuries to joint replacements, Carl and his staff will help you regain movement, resume activities you love to do, and recapture your independence. The phone number there is 201-792-3840. Please feel free to call Carl directly with any questions you have and visit their Hudson County offices at either Jersey City at 1 Nardone Place or in Hoboken at 142 Grant Street, 1422 Grant Street, Suite 4C in Hoboken. Or any of the other 42 Twin Boro locations throughout the state of New Jersey. To learn more about Twin Boro and physical therapy, please visit the website, which is twinboro.com. Strulowitz and Gargiulo Twin Boro Physical Therapy is an in-network provider accepting all major insurances. And not only, like that old Cy Sperling, not only am I a spokesman, but I'm also a client. Well, sure enough, I've been a client of Strulowitz and Gargiulo since 2013, and they still continue to treat me weekly. And I owe Carl my life because before I got to Strulowitz and Gargiulo, I could not walk at all, and now I'm on my feet and I'm able to get around, and I owe it all to Carl and his wonderful staff there, Trish and Sue and Andre, and I'm missing other people, and my boy Francis Carroll. It's a great facility. They just upgraded their equipment at the 1 Nardone Place in Jersey City, so they've got great new equipment to treat people that have illness and injury, and more importantly, they do a lot and I mean a lot, with athletes. And if you go, well, they used to be when they were before they tore it all up and did work, but they used to have pictures all over the walls of all the famous athletes that they treated over the last, say, 15 years, and it was a pretty impressive array. And Carl has always been one that never turns his back on an athlete, so it's a great place, and I recommend it wholeheartedly, not just because they're a sponsor, but I think it's the other way around. I was a patient before they became a sponsor, and I would trust my soul to Carl Gargiulo. He's that good of a man, and he's, I owe my life to him. There's no other words to describe. So please consider, if you need physical therapy work, please consider Strulowitz and Gargiulo, Twin Boro Physical Therapy in Jersey City and Hoboken. So, all right, now we're back with my special guest, Darren Savino, the assistant men's basketball coach at the University of California, Los Angeles, also known as UCLA. But before we get there, we got to make sure we go through every step of the way. All right, you're now at East Carolina with Joe Dooley, and how long were you there at East Carolina for?
Not even a year. Joe got fired at the end of the season, so probably 10 months. So back on the job hunt after 1 year.
Wow. So, right. So at that point, did you say to yourself, "All right, maybe this idea of me being a coach isn't going to work," or did you still have faith that somebody's going to be able to find me, and I'm going to be able to, make the most of this? Go ahead.
Well, what I would say is I'm from Jersey City, so we don't give up easy. I definitely thought I might be a jinx, but as far as giving up, no. I kind of knew Fran Fraschilla was going to get the New Mexico job before Joe got fired, so I was probably going to do that regardless. And then once Joe got fired, the stuff with Fran at New Mexico kind of heated up. He got the job, and then so I left and went to New Mexico in Albuquerque with Fran Fraschilla again.
Okay.
At New Mexico, we were there for 3 years.
And now, what was that like? We talk about culture shock of going to East Carolina. What in the world was it like to go to New Mexico?
Yeah, obviously a part of the country that I've never seen before. It was unique in a lot of ways, but a beautiful part of the country. Just the mountains, the history there. They love, if you've ever had an opportunity to see a game in the pit in Albuquerque, it's one of the unique venues in all sports.
It really is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Because you're walking in, like, say, when you walk into the facility, you're at, like, the fourth level of, say, most arenas. Like, say, for people around here, you walk in through the front door, and you're basically in the fourth level, like you would be at, say, the Meadowlands Arena. You're in the fourth level, and you got to walk down to get to the seats and the floors. Well, that's basically what the pit is all about. It's built into the ground. There's no other words to describe it. It's bizarre, but great.
One of the loudest arenas in the whole country, Jim. When it's packed, they love the Lobos in Albuquerque. So that was an awesome experience. That was big time. I mean, St. John's is big time because you're coaching in the Garden, right? Big East tournament, all that stuff. But coaching in the pit is a unique experience, and I love my time there. I kind of started to get into golf a little bit during my time there. It wasn't very good, but they had great golf courses out there. So it was a great time. I was only there 3 years, but
the weather is a little bit more conducive for you to play golf in New Mexico than, say, it is in Long Island, right?
The weather changes, but yes, it would get because you're in the mountains. You get snow sometimes, but it's not extreme like being in the Northeast or New England, of course. So, I definitely. It's a beautiful place. Santa Fe, New Mexico is an awesome place to visit, which is about an hour, I think, from Albuquerque. So, again, you're talking about stuff that you do in sports, right? The places you get to see. I'm from Jersey City, Country Village, Jersey City, and I get to see the whole different parts of the country just through coaching and basketball.
Okay, and. So you were there 3 years in New Mexico, and you had some success, right? Didn't you go to the NCAA tournament once?
No, we went. So what happened is we went 3 years in a row to the NIT.
Oh, the NIT, okay.
Yeah, and our last year we went to the conference tournament championship, and lost in a close game to BYU. We would have went to the tournament. Obviously, we didn't win the game, so we didn't get an invite. So that's it. 3 NITs in a row. And Fran got fired again, so back on the job hunt.
Now, at that point, where did you think you might end up?
Wow! Again, I had no idea. I was struggling to figure it out. Like your question before, wasn't going to give up, but again, was wondering, am I a jinx?
Now you're 10 years older, right?
10 years older, correct.
Yeah.
But still, I was like, what else am I going to do? Like, I'll find something. We'll get something here. And so it wasn't a Power 5 conference job, but it was a job. It was back closer to home. And so I got connected with Joe DeSantis.
Good man.
Fairfield legend and New York City guy. And I don't remember how me and Joe connected, but we did. And he needed.
Could it have been Herenda? I know Joe and Herenda are close friends. Could it have been?
I'm not going to give Herenda credit for that. He's got enough credit today, he didn't do that.
He's got enough credit. So, okay.
Yeah, no Greg Herenda. But so we connected, me and Joe. At the time, being an assistant at Quinnipiac wasn't ideal, but coming from St. John's and New Mexico. Going to Quinnipiac, they just turned Division I maybe a year or two before I got there.
Yep.
Just starting the program. So, but I went hungry, and I went excited, and I had 2 great years there with Joe. It was definitely an experience that was humbling in a lot of ways. We didn't have a secretary. You had to do everything yourself.
Wow.
Your own expense reports, just everything that you can think of, you had to do on your own. And so it was great for me. I really enjoyed that experience. We had a lot of fun. Hamden, Connecticut's a beautiful part of the state, it's next to New Haven.
Yep.
So I enjoyed it. I got a chance to hit up Pepe's Pizza, which is if you're ever in New Haven,
and one of the best, like the premier pizzeria in the country.
Correct. So
all right. So you stayed at Quinnipiac for a couple of years. Where did what transpires after that? I'm trying to keep up. It's almost.
It's tough. You need a pen and paper to keep up. So I'm at Quinnipiac. I get. I had a couple of phone calls about jobs, things that I kind of looked into that wasn't really interested in, and then a friend of mine that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't St. Peter's talk to you a little bit also about being an assistant coach there, but the salary structure was just not conducive to somebody taking that?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Then maybe I'm wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember St. Peter's, but there were a few jobs that I was interested in. But a friend of mine called me up that knew Mick Cronin. Mick was the head coach at Murray State. He was in just finished his first season. Had a great first season. A young head coach. I want to say 30, 31. And he lost one of his assistants, and me and Mick kind of knew each other, hung out with each other on the road. We went to, we did like a little coaching retreat, played golf. when I was at New Mexico, so I got to know Mick through that. And I was definitely a fish out of water in Murray, Kentucky, but he liked me, I liked him, we had a good connection, and so he said, come on down, I'll fly you in, we'll meet, see what you think, and I did that, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience, because in Murray, Kentucky, they obviously they love the racers down there. It's a big deal, but it's kind of, it's very rural. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah, you step off the plane and you hear the Deliverance theme going off in your head. Like bang 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 bang.
Pretty much. The only problem with that statement is you are correct. When you take your foot off the plane, you got to drive 2 hours to get there, and then the music starts.
That's right.
So it makes it worse. But so I said, yeah, let's do it, Mick. So I enjoyed, meeting with Mick down there, and I was like, let's do it. And, I mostly did junior college recruiting, because, New York kids aren't going to go to Murray, Kentucky. So I did a lot of junior college stuff.
Now, did you
Mick was successful.
Mick right away? Did you and Mick hit it off right away?
Oh, yeah. Mutual respect for each other. We kind of started at the same time. We both worked. We were high school coaches. We worked ABCD camp for Sonny Vaccaro at Fairleigh Dickinson back then when the camp was there. So we kind of knew each other through that. And it was like two friends right away working with each other. And so I did that for 2 years. And then Mick had a great last year. And I obviously my jinx was over. And he got the Cincinnati job.
And that was like taking a step from, I don't know, from saying, like having boxed pizza in the refrigerator to going to Pepe's Pizza. You took a huge step up from going from Murray State to Cincinnati. Cincinnati was a huge step up, correct?
Yeah, huge step. But Murray State, though, I'll tell you this. Murray State, the racers, they have a big-time program that we, in the metropolitan area wouldn't know that unless you really follow college sports. But they love basketball down there. It's far enough away from Louisville and Kentucky where they have their own fan base down there. And it's a big-time, it's a mid-major level program, but they love basketball there. So that was really a good experience. It was really good basketball, and they cared about winning. But yeah, Cincinnati obviously being in the Big East at the time, in a city that was awesome to be able to do that. So I went up there with him. I was literally with him for maybe 2 months, a little less than 2 months, and then Freddie Hill at Rutgers called me and asked me if I wanted to come back to Jersey and go work with him at Rutgers.
Okay.
And I did it.
And you did it. So, and then that didn't last long either, right?
That was 4 years.
Oh, was it 4 years? All right, so that's pretty good. Yeah.
In this business, that's pretty good. Yeah, 4 years. So that was my longest stint up to this date of coaching at one place. So I did 4 years. Again, my jinx came back into play, and Freddie got fired after the 4th year, so we didn't last. And
what was it like to come back home and coach there?
So my mom was sick at the time, and I had an opportunity. Like for me, it was like I got a chance. Rutgers is in the Big East, but for me, it was to go back home. And also, I did like Freddie, and I've known Freddie and respected Freddie, and we had a really good relationship, me and him. But for me, it was to have my parents come to every game, my brother come to the game, his kids. And so that was the main reason why. And I told Mick, like, I got to do this for these reasons. And he was not, obviously it wasn't ideal for him, because he was counting on me to come with him and stay with him at Cincinnati. But he handled it really well, considering what he had to, what he had to do at Cincinnati, which was take over for Bob Huggins, and the program was in shambles. It was a hard thing for Mick, and I just tells you what kind of guy he is and how he handled me leaving.
Yep.
Within, after a month or so. So, but I did it. I had to do it. It was the best 4 years of my life because I got the chance. Every game, my mom and dad with every game. I'm glad I did it. And after 4 years, it was over. And Mick called me up, and he helped me try to get jobs. I talked to everybody for jobs. I couldn't get anything.
Okay.
And so the only thing I had at the time was choose Vitrone at Fairleigh Dickinson to be his assistant at Fairleigh Dickinson.
Okay.
So that's where I was going. And then one day Mick called me up. He says, "Hey, I think Tony Stubblefield, who was his assistant, he's going to take the Oregon job. He's going to leave.
Okay.
Would you come back to Cincinnati?" And I was like, "Mick, you know what? You're the best, man. I can't thank you enough that you would even consider me after, I left, right? After a month." That's just, again, the kind of guy Mick is. And he's like, "Man, I understand, your family." He said, "But you got to make sure, that you're ready to do this now, and you got to ask your parents and kind of see where you're at with that." And it was time. I did my 4 years there at Rutgers, and I'm glad I did it. And my parents were so supportive of me doing this. It was a great opportunity. So I took the Cincinnati job, of course, and the rest was history.
It's history, as they say, right?
The rest was history. 9 years, 9 NCAA tournaments.
9 years.
And
a lot of success, right?
But yeah, Cincinnati's like my second home. I love Cincinnati. I had 9 years, a long time. I kind of felt like I was part of the community there, and they love basketball. Great program, and great 9 years of my life being at Cincinnati.
Great town. I think their love of Skyline Chili, I think is a little overrated, but the town itself is amazing. It really is. It's an underrated gem. Is the best way to describe what Cincinnati is. Okay?
Totally agree.
And at that point, that's when your program started to go on the rise like nobody else's business. It was, you almost exploded into becoming a national power. I'm trying to think, how would I best describe it? When you won, what was the conference called? The Conference USA, right?
So when I was there, we were in the Big East.
Oh, the Big East?
And then
okay.
Yeah. And when the Big East broke up, we went to the American Conference.
Okay, the AAC, right. Okay.
Correct. And that's where we were for the, 4 or 5 years, last 4 or 5 years there.
Okay. And you had some good players in those days too, right?
Yeah, for me, I was able to recruit New York, New Jersey a little bit more. Of course, Cincinnati's had guys in the past from New York area, metropolitan area, so we were able to get a couple of good players to come there. Sean Kilpatrick was there already when I got there,
okay.
and he was a first-team All-American from White Plains, New York.
Yep.
The year before I got there, Lance Stevenson was there for 1 year,
okay.
Brooklyn kid. So, yeah, we've had a lot of great players and a lot of great teams and great memories and a lot of success.
Okay. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's right around that time too, Darren, that unfortunately your mom started to get sicker again, and eventually she then passed away. And how difficult was that for you to be away from home while your mother was in decline?
Well, I think the decision for me to go back to Rutgers when I did, that to me put in my mind the peace, myself in peace of what my relationship is with my parents, right? I was able to do that and spend great time as an adult with them,
right?
And her, and she was so supportive of what I was doing. So I wasn't there every day, but I also would talk to her, 5-6 days a week, 30-minute, 40-minute phone conversations. So we were in constant contact, and it's like losing your mother, but you're losing a confidant, someone that you can talk to every day about life and your personal issues, and so, it's like anybody who loses a parent knows it's not easy, no matter the situation. how sick, how old. It's never easy, but it's a lesson in life that these are things that happen in life, and you have to wake up the next day, no matter how difficult it is, and keep living and keep going on. And at the time I didn't, it was tough, right? But anybody that's lost a parent knows how tough it is. But that's what you have to do, and you have to keep moving. And again, I'm lucky to work for a great guy that understood during the time that it happened that to give me my freedom and let me go back and take care of your family and never put any pressure on me, which some people would do, that are bosses. It was just so fortunate to have good people in your life that you work for and with that understand and care about you and are there for you when you need it the most. So I think it made it easier in some ways, looking back at it now, that I had Nick as my boss that was very supportive of me taking the time I needed when I needed it.
Okay. And then Mom's first name was?
Carol.
Carol. And she passed away in what, 2019?
No, earlier than that. I try to be honest with you. Like, some people know the dates, and I kind of know the day when she passed away, but I don't like to celebrate it or think about it because it's kind of hurtful to me. But some people think of it differently. They like to talk about that. But I want to say it was 2014 or 13. Yeah. It's been. Time flies, Jim.
Oh my God, that's almost 9 years ago. Wow.
Yeah. Time flies.
In me, it feels like it was yesterday. God. Yeah.
Well, I remember you coming to the funeral. I remember seeing you there at the church, Lady Mercy. And
I hung outside the church with Mick Cronin and who else was there with me? We hung out. The three of us hung out and waited for everybody to show up because we got there way early. So it was, but. I'm trying to think who else was there was another coach that was there. The three of us just hung out and waited for the entourage. That's not the word, but the
funeral procession. Yeah.
And we were there sitting outside Our Lady of Mercy Church waiting for it to come. But I can't believe that's 9 years ago already. God, jeez.
Time flies.
Yeah. But that must have been a real tough time for you because I know you and your mom were very, very close.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. Yeah, it's so tough. Again, people that lose their parents, they understand what I'm talking about. It's never, it never goes away. It gets more bearable as time goes on, and so you just mostly think of all the good times, but that's life. We got to deal with these things. Like my dad's still alive and kicking and doing well, and he battles his own little elements, but guy's tough as nails. But at some point, life happens, and we all just got to deal with it. But can't worry about those things. We got to worry about what we got to do today. Enjoy the day. Thank God that we're all healthy and that we're here and we're living life and enjoying it. That's kind of the way I look at it.
All right. So then, when Mick decided that I don't think there was any decision involved with it. He was offered the job at UCLA, and he simply jumped at it. He probably leaped through his shoes and took that. All right. Was there any thought at all of you maybe staying there at Cincinnati and becoming the head coach, or were you going with Mick no matter what?
Yeah. So first of all, I was under the impression Mick tried to keep me focused on what I was doing at Cincinnati, right? It was after the season, we were eliminated from the tournament, so we got to deal with our players, we got to do recruiting stuff, and so that's where my mind was. And him dealing with his agent and however that worked behind the scenes with UCLA, I kept my focus on my job at Cincinnati, what I had to do. When he told me the night before he took the job, that the job was offered to him, he had to make a decision by the morning. My mind was, we're at Cincinnati, I got to do what I got to do. So when he told me the next morning, that's when it kind of hit me. Like, wow, this is life-changing. Like, what are we, it's scary in some ways. So again, Mick's from Cincinnati. He went to Cincinnati as a student. He was the coach there 13 years as a head coach. And, it's a big change. Although it's UCLA and obviously a great program, the story, tradition, all that stuff, but still it's a big change in your life. And it didn't hit me until that morning when he told me he accepted the job. And so once that happened, me and him game planned on how we're going to do this. He wanted me to go for the job at Cincinnati and stay and try to interview and get them to hire me. And he allowed me to do that for, 10 days or so. And that's what I did. And it was apparent that wasn't gonna happen for whatever reasons. And so it was time to move on and got on a plane and came to LA.
Okay. Were you a little disappointed that they didn't offer you the job at Cincinnati? Were you? Let's put it this way: were you set that you were going to be able to, if they offered you the job, that you were going to take it?
Yeah, I would definitely took it, and I think we could have continued what we were doing. We had a really good team coming back, top 25 level team. So, I don't get into those kind of thoughts. I try not to. What if, what could be, what would have happened, all that. I mean, it didn't happen, so there's no sense of talking about it. I just kind of move on and just put my brain into becoming who I need to become at UCLA, which is a hard job because it's a lot of responsibility. It's high profile. Yep. A lot of expectations. So, I had no time to pout and think about Cincinnati and not getting the job. I just... Let's become great at UCLA. We got a lot of work to do. The thing that worried me the most, Jim, was at Cincinnati. We were there. I was there 9 years. We had a culture. We were a machine. Like every year, like the guys knew what to do. I mean, the players taught the new players. Like it was set. And then all of a sudden, we got to start over and coach a team that we didn't recruit any of the guys and teach culture, how we do things. So there was a lot on the plate there in the transition. So that's where my focus was 100%, and I didn't think twice about not getting the Cincinnati job. I do miss Cincinnati in a lot of ways. I still do. But I live in LA, beautiful place, great school.
Yeah. I think it's easy to understand. Like say Cincinnati, Los Angeles, Cincinnati, Los Angeles. Okay, if you're balancing them both, I think 78 degrees and sunny every single day of the year. Cincinnati, it's that coast to coast.
Yeah,
you're
right.
across the river.
We didn't move to Iraq, right? We're in Southern California, beautiful weather, and a storied program with unbelievable tradition and history. And beautiful place, beautiful place.
Like none other.
Beautiful.
History and tradition is like none other. Maybe Kentucky, maybe the University of Kentucky. I don't know, but
there's obviously great programs. Everybody has their own little charm about each place. I think UCLA is unique because it combines elite academics, the best public university in the country, the most applied to university in the country, and then obviously one of the storied basketball programs in the history of college basketball. 11 national championships, 19 Final Fours. I sound like an infomercial. I sound like I'm recruiting you, Jim.
Yeah.
I sound like you're recruiting you.
Even looking that stuff up,
So,
and of course, one of those Final Fours and one of those final appearances is under your watch.
Second year, Jim. Second year, we were the 11th seed.
11. That's right. See, you said 11th seed. You were right.
11th seed. If we weren't the last team, we were the next to last team to get invited.
Right.
And so we're literally sitting there waiting on the edge of our seat. I never doubted that we were not going to, that we were going to get invited. I thought we were definitely a good enough team to be one of the teams, and we had to wait till the last second. We got in, and then it all was like surreal because we had to play in a tournament all in one location, never done before.
Right.
COVID, no limited fans. It was so unique, but I think also
strange, beyond strange.
Beyond strange. But here's what I thought: we probably had more eyes on this tournament from the beginning to the end than any other tournament because of what we went through the year before. canceling all sports essentially,
Right.
and so everybody was just so anxious for the tournament. Like we gotta get back to life, right? And we want to enjoy this tournament because we didn't have one last year. And so, although the fans weren't in the gym, a lot of eyes on TV were watching it, and it was exciting. We could have easily lost to Michigan State in the first game. We were down late, overtime, and we won the game, thank God, and were able to survive. And it was tough. We had to beat BYU, who had a really good team, in the next game, and we were fortunate to be able to. We got lucky because Abilene Christian upset Texas. And so our next game was against Abilene Christian to get to the Sweet 16. So we had some luck there, and we played well in that game. They would beat them, and then beat a great Alabama team. It was probably one of the hottest teams in the country, one of the best offenses in the country.
Absolutely.
In an awesome game. We played great. And then to beat Michigan, who was probably one of the favorites that year to win it all. And that set up for the Gonzaga game in the Final Four, which we lost at the buzzer.
Right.
In overtime. So,
but what a great run, and that was a fun team to watch play. You guys,
I appreciate that.
Had three great scorers that were on that team. That they really just they really lit it up, and were very exciting to watch. And obviously I had a personal rooting interest because I wanted you to win, but as long as you were playing Marquette, I didn't care. Although you did beat them in the regular season that year, but still, what you call it? As long as you're not beating up on Marquette, I'm always rooting for you. So that was
I appreciate that.
Just a great run, and went all the way to the finals, and unfortunately you didn't win. And then correct me if I'm wrong. What happened last year? I don't even remember.
So we go to the Final Four the year before, and so we're like we have all 5 starters back this past year.
Right.
So everyone's got us right to go out on a limb and pick us to go back to the Final Four. So it was Final Four or bust for us this past season, and we did have another great season. We lost to Arizona in the championship game in our conference finals, where we had a double-figure lead in the second half, and I wound up losing a close game. But so we won 2 games in the tournament and got to the Sweet 16 and played North Carolina in the Sweet 16 in Philadelphia, and had a 5-point lead with under 3 minutes to go, and just kind of couldn't stop one of their better players. Caleb Love had an awesome run in the last 5 minutes of the game, and we couldn't make shots, and the winning who would have won that game, we would have played St. Peter's in the next game to go to the Final Four. So we had a chance to go to back-to-back Final Fours. Yeah.
How wild would that have been for you to play St. Peter's with a chance to go to the Final Four?
Oh my God! It would have been wild. I would have been a nervous wreck, right? Because everybody just would assume that we were just going to automatically win,
right?
Which there's no such thing. But what Shaheen did and what St. Peter's did, that team. Just I can't say enough how remarkable that whole run was. That in my time as a college coach, that might be one of the best remarkable runs. Being from Jersey City, knowing St. Peter's College, the infrastructure there, the things that they have to deal with when it comes to whether it be finances or facilities, and the way those kids played. I mean, it made everybody in New Jersey proud, not just Jersey City.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. To beat Kentucky.
Kentucky. They beat Kentucky.
It's amazing. And then beat Purdue. Just we played before them, Jim.
I want to get into the main reason why St. Peter's beat Purdue in that game. You know what it was? It was Matt Painter, who did not understand that he had a 7'4" guy and a 6'11" guy against his front line, and St. Peter's was playing 6'6" and 6'4". Well, all you had to do was get the ball down low to the big guys, and they were going to dominate. And no, they didn't do it, and they kept taking shots from the outside, and St. Peter's kept capitalizing on that, and I kept sitting there going, I cannot believe they're going to beat Purdue with that. I cannot believe it. I can't believe it. Now,
we were in the hallway when that game was coming to an end because we were obviously playing in the same building, and I've been to I coached in a lot of NCAA tournaments. That before we stepped on the court when St. Peter's just left, they walked right by us. I hugged Shaheen after, congratulated him. The place was electric. Yep. That arena was electric for St. Peter's win. The buzz in the air, the atmosphere was unbelievable. What an unbelievable accomplishment by them to do what they did. So, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to play them because I did like our chances.
Yeah,
sorry, St. Peter's.
Too. I think I would have liked your chances against St. Peter's. But
it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. So, all right. So, to sum it all up, this is now. You've been coaching college basketball now for almost 20 years. Is that correct?
I'd say like 25.
Yeah, 25.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
8 or 9 schools. So I feel young, Jim. I don't feel old.
Is that what you said?
Say it again.
I said, did you say 8 or 9 schools?
Yeah, I think so. I think that might be 9. Yeah.
Wow. So you've been all over the place, but now, hey, I don't think any assistant coach in America would want to have a better place to work than at UCLA. And you're getting to work for a guy who I would consider now, after you've been together for 11 years, it's almost like a marriage. There's nobody better to work with than Mick Cronin, correct?
That's the way I look at it, Jim. I mean, he's loyal, he's honest. You know exactly where you stand with him. And that's all you can ask for, in my opinion. That's the way I grew up. I would rather someone be brutally honest with you and tell you the truth because they care about your success and care about you as a person, instead of someone who doesn't tell you exactly what's going on and is always missed signals that happen in relationships and stuff. And I don't get that with Mick. I get the truth, honesty. I know exactly where I stand. I know how he thinks. I've been with him now. This will be 15 years coming up.
Wow.
This year.
Wow.
14 years as his assistant, working for him, with him. And so I just feel like, that we have a bond, we have an understanding, and I know my lane. I know how I can contribute, and it's everything that I want in life. So, and I think the players would just feel the same way. They feel that's why we don't have a lot of transfers, because Mick tells them up front how it's going to be. There's no, it's going to be this way, and it happens a different way. It is what it is, and you know what to expect, and makes life much more enjoyable. So I'm very blessed and happy to be here. And I wasn't a great athlete by any stretch, but coaching is a lot of caring and thinking of others and being able to motivate and bond and connect with people and help them reach their goals and dreams. And so good players, they want that. They don't really care where you played or what's your name. They want people that they can trust and know they have their best interest at heart, and they'll follow you to the end. So I'm just so grateful to be here and looking forward to winning a national championship.
Okay, and just let's give the listeners a little bit of insight of what to expect from the Bruins this coming season. And did you have a good recruiting year? Did you have?
Yeah, exciting, Jim. We have 3 top 50 recruits and actually top 40 recruits. 2 McDonald's All-Americans. Amari Bailey is a lefty combo guard.
What's his name?
Who's one of the Amari Bailey.
Amari Bailey. Okay.
Yep. He's a combo guard, 6'4" combo guard. Went to Sierra Canyon here in California. He's a top 10 recruit, top 5 recruit. Not really sure where he went, end up at the end, but he was one of the best players in the country. And Adem Bona is a big guy, 6'10", from prolific prep via Africa and Turkey.
Okay.
And he's one of the best young big men in the country. And then Dylan Andrews, who's a local point guard, combo point guard, fast, top 40 recruit, lightning fast, penetrator, assist guy, can score, a good, really good young player. So those are our three incoming freshmen that will have a big impact on the team. We do have a couple of veteran stars returning. Jaime Jaquez, who could be, Pac-12 Player of the Year, maybe potentially an All-American, first-team All-American.
Wow.
6'7" player that's going into his senior year. And Tiger Campbell, one of the best point guards in the country, known for his hair.
Yeah, I was going to say, the only bad thing about him is he needs a haircut. But other than that,
he's never gonna get a haircut. So that's out the window. That's his thing. And a great name, and a great leader, and a great player. So we're fortunate to have those two veteran guys back. Jalen Clark played a lot last year as a sophomore. He'll be a junior. And we had a couple of injuries last year, guys that didn't play. Will McClendon, Mac Etienne from Middletown, New York, big guy. So we'll have a really good team. I think we're somewhere in the top 10 preseason. But I think this year's team is going to be the most athletic team that we've had. We can look more like our Bearcat teams with defensive pressure and athleticism. So that's exciting.
That'll be good for the Pac-12 because nobody plays defense.
Correct.
Yeah, that's it. So,
Correct.
You're a defensive team in the Pac-12, and then you got to step up on everybody else.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody else plays defense, but I think
former neighbor, and classmate, and teammate. He had perhaps one of the worst defensive teams I've ever seen last year, and that's why they were so poor. So, he helped it all with injuries, but
they always play us good. Every time we play Bobby's team, it's a hard game for me because of our relationship. Because I never want to see him fail, but obviously I want to win, of course. But his team always plays our team really well. Every game is down to the wire. So I think he's going to have. He seems to be pretty excited about this year's team. I think he's going to have a good season too. So which I'm going to be pulling for, of course. But I like our team. It's going to be a fun year, exciting. And we got a lot of work to do, of course, like everybody else does. But it's going to be should be a fun season here in Westwood.
Beautiful. All right, and all things considered, when you look at it, how fortunate do you feel that you're a kid from Country Village in Jersey City, and now you're an assistant coach? Oh no! Before I get into that, is there going to be a day that you're going to want to become a head coach someplace? Is that something that you think about, or is it right now that are you comfortable with the fact of being Mick Cronin's assistant?
I'm comfortable either way, Jim. I would love to have an opportunity to coach at a program that cares and supports basketball, and so if that opportunity comes, that'll be great. I'm ready. I'm more than ready.
All right.
But if not, I'm also comfortable in what I do and the contribution I bring every day as Mick Cronin's assistant. And so, as long as he'll have me, I'll be here for him and work as hard as I can. So, either way, whatever happens, I'm ready and happy to do either one. So, it'd have to be, for me to leave UCLA, it'd have to be something really worth my while to do, and it's a place that cares about winning and is a good program. Which those jobs are hard to get.
Absolutely.
So
all right.
But yeah, I love what I'm doing.
All right, and let's talk a little bit about personal life. You are not married, are you?
No.
Okay. Single.
No kids.
No kids. No wife, whatever. So this is, you could live the life as a bachelor in Southern California. It's not a bad thing at all, right?
Jim, I'm retired from bachelor life, so no bachelor life for me.
No bachelor.
Retired.
Okay.
No, retired.
42.
Come on. How old did you say I'm? 42.
42.
Oh man, you're the best. Thank you. 42. I'll take 42 right now. I'll be 51 in 2 weeks.
You're over 50?
Yeah.
Oh my God! I you know what? Anybody who's younger than me, Darren, I lose sight in how old they are. I really do.
Yeah. I wish I was 42, but that's a compliment. I'll take that as a compliment that you think I'm 42.
Well, you certainly don't age, but I guess that's because you're not going to turn gray anytime soon. So that's.
Well, I'm definitely gray, but I think running around with these young kids keep me healthy and keep me spry. So.
All right. So now in closing, And we certainly did a trip around. You wondered whether or not you were going to be interesting enough to talk for an hour, but you've certainly exceeded that. How fortunate do you feel like you are to have the life and the career that you've had, and it's all through sports? And you're a kid from Country Village, and now you're coaching in Westwood, California. I mean, how you can't dream up something like that. So how fortunate do you feel that you are that you're able to?
So fortunate, so blessed, and I say that with all my heart. Not someone to use that word unless I really mean it, and I do. And I think about it every day, Jim. I do. I think about it every day, especially when I walk on campus. I look around and I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, yeah. I don't. It's almost like you feel like you almost don't belong here. I know I belong here, but you just get a feeling in your stomach of just how happy and how fortunate that I am that I'm here. So I look at that every day, but I try to bring that in my job, my approach to my job every day.
Okay.
Not taking anything for granted, not relaxing in any way, and also bringing that to the kids. Like, don't you understand? Like the guys on the team, or maybe recruiting, like how lucky you are to be associated. You have to understand how lucky you are to be associated with a university like this, and to be in Westwood and walk around with UCLA across your chest. So I think it makes me a better coach, and I'm just so appreciative. And there's so many better athletes than I was that I grew up with, and I had this opportunity to coach here at a place like this. So very fortunate, and I'm very grateful.
Beautiful. Well, I'm grateful to being able to watch you mature into a great young man. And wow, 51, geez, that makes me feel like I'm about 111. But it's been a wonderful trip watching you grow up and monitoring you throughout everything you've done. And you deserve the success you have because you've worked very, very hard to get where you are. And it's not an easy trip. It really isn't. Coaching college basketball, as you've proven with all the different stops that you've had to make along the way, not an easy go. So, but I guess a lot of it stems from the fact that you listened a lot to what Coach Hurley had to say to you, and a lot of what he taught you is now rubbing off on you as being a coach. Correct?
100%, Jim. Like he's what I aspire to be in regards to maybe not necessarily the wins and losses in the Hall of Fame career, but the lives that he's touched. And I say that, and I mean it so much. The people that he's inspired, the people he's helped to whether to go to college for free or inspired them to become coaches or whatever it would be. He's changed so many lives, and so I think about that every day. And with what I do, and I owe it to him to carry on what he did as a coach, and to the kids that I coach, I try to mentor. I try to give everything I have in me to help them reach their goals and to make them better men. And Coach Hurley taught me all that stuff. And a lot of the coaching philosophies and things that go through my head as a coach, it all comes back, to Bob Hurley. So I'm so fortunate to be associated with him, and he's more than a coach to me. I mean, I grew up, with his family. I consider them family. So so fortunate to have him in my life.
No. Well, we've been so fortunate to have you as somebody to aspire to, inspire us, and look after and say, you know what, that's Darren Savino. He's one of us. So I'm extremely proud of you, what you've been able to do. And I wish you nothing but the greatest success moving forward, and I hope to see you sometime soon.
Thanks, Jim. Hopefully we'll get to see you at the Final Four this year. We're playing in it. That'd be great.
That's it. That'd be fantastic. Although if you're playing in the Final Four, then we never get the chance to see you because you're like almost sequestered. So but I wish you the best of luck. It should be a fun year. And obviously, I'll stay up late to listen to Bill Walton cover some of your games, because that's about as much fun as college basketball could be, is to listen to Bill Walton call a UCLA game. That's
the best. He's the best. Nobody loves UCLA more than that guy, and a lot of fun to be around. And he's. I used to get a lot of kicks out of prior to me coming here. I would watch some of the late games, back in the East Coast, just so I could hear him call the game, because he's so entertaining. So I know exactly what you mean.
Right, there's no question. And Bill Walton was my favorite player growing up. So I mean, he's somebody who I soak up everything he does. So you probably were too young to remember him as a player, but he was phenomenal to watch, because he made block shots into an art form. He didn't just block a shot. He blocked it to a teammate and led to the fast break going the other way, And as a passing big man, there was no better. He'd get the ball at the high post, and then he'd be able to find somebody in the far corner, and he was just a joy to watch play. So it must be, to have that kind of association, that the two of the best big men in the history of basketball both went to UCLA, and that's, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Walton, So.
Yes, it's so true.
Darren, this was an absolute joy doing this. Thanks so very much for taking the time to talk to me, and I hope to see you somewhere down the road. It's been a great blast. Thanks so much. I know this took a long time to get it done, but now we finally got it done. So
we got it done, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. You take care of yourself, Darren.
Be well.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
And that was my special guest today, was UCLA assistant coach Darren Savino from Jersey City, who is paid his dues, and it's paying off in the right way, being, you can't say much more about being, if you're going to coach basketball, not a bad place to coach basketball than at UCLA. Thank you very much for listening. Again, this was, I thank my special sponsors, who are Stan Sports Center, located at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken. Telephone number is 201-798-4466. And don't forget, if you mention the Hudson County Sports Podcast, you get a 10% discount on anything retail in the store. 10% off on the store. Just go into Stan's at 528 Washington Street in Hoboken, mention Hudson County Sports Podcast, and you get 10% off. Not a bad deal. And say hello to my friends, Danny and Todd and Lou, great guys down at Stan's. Okay, and then my other special sponsor is Strulowitz and Gargiulo Twin Boro Physical Therapy, which located at two locations. One is at 1 Nardone Place in Jersey City in the Heights. Telephone number there is 201-798. No, check that, 201-792-3840. That's 201-792-3840. Or their other location, which is located at 1422 Grant Street, Suite 4C in Hoboken. And the telephone number there is 201-963-8808. With my special thanks to my executive producer, Johnny Haig, who without him there would be no such thing as the Hudson County Sports Podcast. And I'd like to thank all my listeners for tuning in again. It's almost coming. We're coming up on our 3rd anniversary. Can you believe it's been almost 3 years of the Hudson County Sports Podcast? It'll be 3 years later this month. All right. Thank you very much for listening. I'm your host, Jim Haig, and we'll be back with another edition of the Hudson County Sports Podcast next week. Thanks for listening. Take care.